Tech Matters, brought to you by CenturyLink.
The latest round of FITARA grades don't look so hot on the surface, but there may be good news among the C's and D's. Mike Hettinger is president of Hettinger Strategy Group, and Rich Beutel is founder of Cyrrus Analytics. What should we take away from the grades released at this hearing of the Senate House Oversight and Government Reform Committee yesterday?
I think first and foremost, they're making progress, right? I think what we've seen is the grades continually go up. And agencies are starting to understand the process better. So I think first and foremost, we need to watch that progress and continue the oversight. Obviously, I think it's important that the committee has done what they've done. This was the third hearing yesterday. So I think the more oversight that's done, the more agencies begin to understand what it means and why it's important. I think we'll continue to see progress.
You mentioned the good news for some of the agencies earlier in the broadcast, Rich. One of the folks who didn't fare so well is the folks at the Transportation Department. Now, Richard McKinney has been out there very adamantly, very outspoken about how great he thinks FITARA is, how much it's helping and will help the federal CIO community, and yet not working out so well, apparently, according to the grades. What do you take away from that?
Well, Richard McKinney's one of the great CIOs in government, and they were careful at the hearing to say that these grades are not scarlet letters. They're intended to measure trajectory or trend lines overall, and constructively, I think Department of Transportation has had some significant progress going forward, and I don't think this looks badly upon Richard McKinney.
I don't think so either, but then I wonder if the trajectory looks not so good for some agencies, what about the agencies that it looks good for? If we can look at transportation and say they're doing okay even though the trend's not good, for the agencies where the trend is good, how can we make sure that they are doing well?
Well, and that's a $64,000 question, right? Are we making progress, or are we making progress simply on the scorecard? Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest challenge is going to be figuring out, unpacking what's underneath these grades and understanding, is transportation making progress, in fact, even though their grade went down, or are some of the other agencies that maybe stayed neutral or went up a little bit, what have they done to do that? And so to me, that's the real challenge. Let's unpack the grade a little bit, understand what's beneath it. Rich and I have been very outspoken about the need for the scorecard to continue to evolve. And part of the reason behind that is we want to make sure it's relevant to the agencies and improving management the way that Rich and Chairman Issa and the folks that worked on the original legislation intended.
Are we starting to see a hardening of best practices, Rich, that will allow agencies to say, great, I don't have to worry about the scorecard being a scarlet letter. I can focus on progress, and the scorecard will take me wherever it takes me. But these are the things that other agencies are doing to succeed, and I'm going to do these same things to succeed.
I think you are seeing that development. To me, the big story from yesterday's hearing was the expansion of the scorecard to include empowerment of the CIO. Recall that FITARA has 7 pillars, and that scorecard, at least initially, only looked at 4 of the 7. And so this now expands it beyond that. And to the extent that these practices and divergence between what OMB is looking for and what the scorecard measures come closer together and begin to harmonize, I think that's a good thing.
Do we need to get all 7 pillars of FITARA on the scorecard eventually? Is that what you're talking about the evolution of that scorecard?
I think that's obviously one area you could go. I mean, there's some other things that you could look at as well. But getting to the 7 pillars, assuming we have data that allows you to get accurate information and can give you good scores, I think that's a good place to start.
How do we make this work through the transition? The next scorecard, they look at this every 6 months or so, twice a year. The next one obviously won't happen until the Trump administration's in place. Some of the CIOs that are there now, Richard's one of them, won't be there the next time that we look at this. How do we make sure there's a continuity that doesn't result in dropping the ball?
Well, I think you do that because many of the career folks will continue on, but most importantly, congressional interest and congressional oversight is clearly going to continue. This was the 3rd FITARA compliance hearing. They're already talking about evolving the scorecard even further, and they're looking to a May timeframe for the 4th FITARA compliance hearing. So to the extent Congress keeps a close eye on this, I believe continuity will occur.
Okay, with the continuity in place then, Mike, how much leeway do the agencies have before these grades do start to become a scarlet letter and the members of Congress say, okay, we've given you enough latitude, we don't see the progress that we want, and now the hammer has to come down?
I think some of that's going to depend on who the new folks are at OMB, who the new federal CIO is, how they look at it, and then how they work with Congress to try to either evolve the scorecard or take some additional ownership at the OMB level for the scorecard. So I think that's going to depend on sort of the new administration's approach to it, working with Congress to continue to drive this home. Importantly, it's the law, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on right now in government that are not in statute, and those are the things I think that have a chance of not continuing as effectively as say FITARA, which is in the law.
Something that is not in the law yet is the Modernizing Government Technology Act. House passed it overwhelmingly earlier in this session. It appears it's not going to make it onto the Senate's list between now and Friday, when everybody's expected to get out of town and the 114th Congress will adjourn. What do we do? What do we expect to see happen in the 115th regarding the MGT Act, Rich?
Well, we're going to continue the push. MGT is a critical piece of the overall picture about cloud first and how we accelerate government IT modernization. We were disappointed by the CBO score. It scored the bill as costing $9 billion and using a very odd methodology, in my opinion. And we think that by working with CBO and working with the appropriations committees, we can bring that down, or at least rationalize that and move MGT forward after the first of the year.
Obviously, Congress will have to start over since it didn't get through, so the House will have to pass it again. But it passed so overwhelmingly this time, I don't expect that to be an issue, do you?
No, the real question is timing. Is it given it the first 100 days, right? You're going to have a very active agenda in both the House and Senate first 100 days. How does it fit into that? When does it get reintroduced? Do we bring some of the other concepts back into MGT that were there originally, like FedRAMP reform and some of the other issues? It's not clear to us exactly how the Congress wants to go forward, but obviously we're going to continue to push for it. What's great is overwhelming industry support, overwhelming congressional support. For the most part, what really happened is you got a CBO score of $9 billion. With a week left, right? And we could overcome it if we had a month. I don't think we can overcome it with just a week left in the congressional session.
Mike Hettinger, Rich Beutel, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis.